The neon glow of Kuala Lumpur's Petaling Street flickered through a haze of monsoon mist, casting jagged shadows on a man in a tailored suit. It was June 27, 1994, just past midnight, and Harold James Nicholson, a 43-year-old CIA officer, slipped into a cramped cafe, the air thick with the scent of curry and cigarette smoke. A manila envelope weighed heavy under his arm, stuffed with secrets that would shatter lives. For 2 years, Nicholson fed Russia's SVR, successor to the KGB, intelligence that gutted U.S. operations, endangered agents, and netted him over $180,000 in blood money. Caught in a dramatic 1996 FBI sting, he was convicted in 1997, sentenced to over 2 decades in prison. But his treachery didn't end behind bars. In a jaw-dropping twist, Nicholson orchestrated a scheme from his cell, using his own son Nathaniel to collect Russian payments, leading to a second guilty plea in 2010. This is the saga of a man who betrayed his country twice, a father who dragged his family into the abyss, and a cautionary tale of ambition, desperation, and the unrelenting pull of espionage's dark allure. Welcome, my incredible viewers, to another heart-stopping journey into the shadows of true crime and espionage. A massive shout-out to every subscriber, supporter, and storyteller who keeps this channel burning bright. Your passion fuels these sagas. If this story hooks you, smash that like button, drop your wildest thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to dive deeper into the world of spies and scandals. Let's unravel the double life of Harold James Nicholson, the CIA's fallen star who gambled with history and lost. Born on November 17, 1950, in Woodburn, Oregon, Harold Jim Nicholson grew up in a world of small-town simplicity, far from the clandestine intrigues that would define his life. His father, Marvin Nicholson, was a stern Air Force officer, a man of discipline who flew reconnaissance missions during the Korean War. His mother, Peggy, was a homemaker, pouring her warmth into raising Jim and his 2 siblings in a modest, clapboard house. The family moved often: California, Guam, the Philippines, chasing Marvin's postings. Jim thrived in the chaos, a golden boy with a megawatt smile, piercing blue eyes, and a knack for winning hearts. At Woodburn High, he was a track star, student body president, and homecoming king, his charisma lighting up the bleachers. He idolized John F. Kennedy, memorizing the president's 1961 inaugural address, dreaming of a life of service. But beneath the all-American veneer, Jim craved something bigger, a stage where his talents could shine. In 1968, Nicholson enrolled at Oregon State University, majoring in geography with a minor in political science. The Vietnam War cast a long shadow, and in 1970, he joined the Army to avoid the draft, serving as a signals intelligence officer in Thailand. Stationed in steamy jungles, he intercepted Viet Cong radio chatter, learning the art of decoding secrets under pressure. The experience was a revelation. Intelligence work wasn't just a job, it was a high-stakes game of wits. After his discharge in 1973, he returned to Oregon State, graduating in 1975 with a burning ambition. The CIA, with its mystique of covert ops and global influence, beckoned. In 1979, at 29, Nicholson joined the agency, a fresh-faced recruit with a hunger to prove himself. The CIA saw a diamond in the rough, 6 feet 2 inches, athletic, with a chameleon's ability to blend into any crowd. They sent him to Camp Peary, known as the Farm, where he trained in spycraft, surveillance, dead drops, agent handling, and the moral tightrope of espionage. Nicholson excelled, earning the nickname Batman for his knack for slipping into any role. The 1980s were a golden era for Nicholson. Posted to Manila, 1982 to 1985. He recruited Filipino informants to track communist insurgents, his charm disarming even the wariest sources. In Bangkok, 1985 to 1987, he infiltrated Chinese diplomatic circles, navigating smoky backrooms with a martini in hand. Tokyo, 1987 to 1990, was his proving ground, where he targeted Soviet diplomats in a high-stakes chess match. Colleagues envied his nerve, his ability to turn strangers into assets with a smile and a well-timed anecdote. In 1980, he married Lori Caswell, a soft-spoken schoolteacher from Corvallis, Oregon. They welcomed 3 children, Jeremiah in 1982, Star in 1984, and Nathaniel in 1986. To the world, Jim was a model patriot, a CIA rising star, a doting father who coached Little League, a husband who brought Lori roses on anniversaries. But beneath the surface, fault lines were forming. By 1990, Nicholson's world began to fracture. Posted to Bucharest, Romania, 1990 to 1992, he ran operations in a post-Cold War maelstrom. The Soviet Union had collapsed, leaving Eastern Europe a chaotic battleground of spies, smugglers, and rogue agents. Nicholson thrived on the adrenaline, recruiting Russian defectors and tracking arms dealers. But the CIA was in turmoil, downsizing budgets and shifting focus from Moscow to terrorism. Jim felt sidelined, his talents wasted on a shrinking stage. His marriage to Lori buckled under the strain of constant relocations and his late-night missions. Arguments grew bitter, centered on money and time apart. In 1992, they divorced, leaving Jim with $30,000 in alimony debts and custody fights over Jeremiah, Star, and Nathaniel. The kids, now 10, 8, and 6, shuttled between parents, their confusion a knife in Jim's heart. He moved to Langley, taking a desk job at the farm, training new case officers. The role was a demotion in his eyes, a paper pusher's purgatory for a man who dined with ambassadors and dodged KGB tails. At 42, Nicholson was a caged lion, his ego bruised, his bank account bleeding, and his ambition raging like a forest fire. The tipping point came in 1994, when Nicholson was posted to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, as Deputy Chief of Station. The city was a humid, neon-drenched hub of espionage, where CIA, SVR, and Chinese agents played a deadly game in crowded markets and high-rise hotels. Nicholson had access to the CIA's crown jewels, lists of trainees at the farm, operational plans in Asia, and counterintelligence files on Russian spies. But his life was a wreck. Debts topped $50,000. Child support payments loomed, and a new relationship with Teresa Marsh, a 28-year-old paralegal, demanded stability. Teresa, with her sharp wit and expensive tastes, wanted a future Jim couldn't afford. On June 27, 1994, in a moment that would echo through history, Nicholson crossed the Rubicon. During a routine meeting at the Russian embassy, he approached SVR officer Vladimir Kuzmin, a wiry man with cold eyes. "I have something you'll want," Jim said, sliding a diskette across the table. It held details of CIA operations in Malaysia, low level, but enough to prove his worth. Kuzmin, skeptical but intrigued, handed over $12,000 in cash. Nicholson's pulse raced as he pocketed the bills, the weight of treason lighter than he'd feared. He'd outsmarted the system, and it felt like victory. Codenamed Gamma by the SVR, Nicholson became a traitor of terrifying efficiency. From 1994 to 1996, he delivered a torrent of intelligence that crippled U.S. operations. He leaked the identities of 300 CIA trainees at the farm, exposing future officers before their careers began. He provided details of U.S. operations in Russia, including surveillance of SVR safehouses. Most damning, he betrayed a network of agents targeting Moscow, men and women risking their lives to pierce the Kremlin's veil. His method was a masterclass in audacity. In Kuala Lumpur, he'd copy files onto floppy disks, hiding them in cigarette packs or hollowed-out pens. Meetings with SVR handlers took place in seedy bars, jungle clearings, or crowded night markets, where he'd pass disks for cash, $180,000 over 2 years, with promises of $300,000 more in Moscow accounts. Back in the U.S. by 1995, at Langley's Counterterrorism Center, he smuggled documents in briefcases, dropping them at dead drops in D.C.'s suburbs, Rock Creek Park, Arlington mailboxes, Bethesda Park benches. The money transformed his life. Private schools for his kids, a $200,000 condo for Teresa, secret accounts in Switzerland and Singapore. To colleagues, he was a mentor, coaching recruits with a professor's gravitas. But his Rolex, Armani suits, and weekend trips to Bali sparked whispers. The CIA's nightmare began in 1995, when Russian assets started vanishing. A double agent in Moscow, codenamed Spartan, was recalled and executed in a Lubyanka cell. A GRU officer, codenamed Orion, was found in a Volga River ditch, a bullet in his skull. Another, codenamed Vortex, disappeared into a Siberian prison. The agency's Russian operations, still reeling from Aldrich Ames, were hemorrhaging. Langley launched a mole hunt, codenamed Shadowcatcher, led by counterintelligence veteran Paul Redmond. Suspicion fell on Nicholson after a 1995 polygraph flagged deceptive responses about foreign contacts. His charm, once a shield, began to crack. The FBI's Operation Nighthawk took over, tailing Nicholson with unmarked vans, bugging his Langley office, and hacking his CIA laptop. They found encrypted emails to an SVR handler, signed Gamma. His trash yielded a gold mine, a torn post-it with Drop 2200 RCP $20,000. The net was closing, but Nicholson, blinded by hubris, didn't see it. On November 16, 1996, the FBI struck. As Nicholson boarded a Swissair flight at Dulles Airport, bound for Zurich with a disk of CIA secrets, agents swarmed. "Harold Nicholson, you're under arrest for espionage," an agent snapped, cuffing him as stunned passengers watched. A search of his briefcase revealed classified files, a coded SVR message, and a burner phone. At his Fairfax apartment, agents found $10,000 in cash, Swiss bank records, and a laptop with deleted but recoverable emails. Nicholson, defiant, claimed it was a misunderstanding, but the evidence was a guillotine. The 1997 trial in Alexandria, Virginia, was a media frenzy. Facing life, Nicholson pleaded guilty to espionage on March 4, 1997, securing a plea deal to shield his children. Judge William Hilton sentenced him to 23 years and 7 months, a lenient term for treason, citing his cooperation. He was sent to FC1 Sheridan, a medium-security prison in Oregon, his CIA legacy in ashes. But Nicholson's treachery had a second act, one that stunned even seasoned investigators. Incarcerated at Sheridan by 2006, he turned his 7x9 cell into a command center. His youngest son, Nathaniel, then 22, became his unlikely pawn. Nathaniel, a devout Christian and Army veteran, worshipped his father, swallowing Jim's tales of being framed by a vindictive CIA. Over prison visits, Nicholson wove a seductive lie. The Russians owed him $100,000 for past services, hidden in overseas accounts. "It's for the family, Nate," he'd say, eyes locked on his sons. "You're the only one I trust." Nathaniel, desperate to redeem his father, agreed. From 2006 to 2008, codenamed Junior by the SVR, he traveled to San Francisco, Mexico City, Lima, and Cyprus, meeting Russian handlers in hotel lobbies and deserted plazas. Disguised as a backpacking student, he'd pass coded messages, scribbled on napkins, tucked in paperbacks, and collect cash, totaling $47,000. He wired the money to Lori and his siblings, believing he was saving his family's honor. The scheme was bold but brittle. Nathaniel, untrained and nervous, left a trail. In 2008, an SVR defector tipped off the FBI, who tracked Nathaniel's flights and hotel bookings. On December 12, 2008, agents intercepted him in San Francisco, catching him mid-handover with an SVR operative. Under interrogation, Nathaniel broke, sobbing as he revealed his father's plan. The FBI, enraged, charged Nicholson with conspiracy to commit espionage from prison. On January 18, 2010, he pleaded guilty again, adding 8 years to his sentence. Nathaniel, spared prosecution for cooperating, walked free, but carried the scars of his father's manipulation. The CIA, humiliated, overhauled prison monitoring, stunned that a convict could run an international spy ring from a cell. What drove Harold Nicholson to betray his country twice? Money was a spark, $180,000 from the SVR, with more dangled like a carrot. But his motives ran deeper. He saw himself as a spy master, a cut above the CIA's bureaucrats. The divorce, debts, and pressure to provide for his kids and Teresa pushed him over the edge. But his ego was the true driver. In prison, that ego refused to die. Using Nathaniel was a twisted act of legacy, a father crafting a protege in his image. Unlike Ames, fueled by greed, or Hansen, driven by resentment, Nicholson was a narcissist, craving control even from a concrete cage. His charm, once his greatest weapon, blinded him to the risks, turning allies into pawns. At 74, Nicholson sits in FCY Victorville, a medium-security prison in California's Mojave Desert. His release, once set for 2024, may be delayed by the 2010 conviction. Diabetes and chronic back pain slow him, but his mind remains sharp. In letters to supporters, he paints himself as a patriot betrayed, a victim of CIA politics. His children, scarred by his actions, have drifted apart. Jeremiah and Starr rarely speak of him, while Nathaniel visits sporadically, torn between love and betrayal. The CIA, still rebuilding, lost millions in operations and an untold number of lives. The agents Nicholson exposed, Spartan, Orion, Vortex, were more than code names. They were fathers, dreamers, heroes, erased by a man who chose cash over country. Nicholson's legacy is a chilling warning. His ability to spy from prison shows the reach of a determined traitor. As Russia's shadow looms, cyber attacks, election meddling, covert ops, the threat of moles persists. The CIA now screens officers with forensic precision, but human nature remains the weakest link. Nicholson's story, like Kuala Lumpur's rain-soaked streets, lingers. Dark, treacherous, a reminder that betrayal can strike twice. Could another Nicholson be out there, hiding in plain sight? Only vigilance and time will tell. Thank you for joining this epic odyssey into espionage's darkest corners. Your support keeps these stories alive. If this saga shook you, share it with friends, hit that like button, and subscribe for more true crime and spy tales. Let's keep the conversation blazing. Could a traitor like Nicholson strike again? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next story of secrets and betrayal.